Okay, so far we've done horizontal and vertical translations, and that was where we had f of x minus c plus d, okay? This d moved it up or down, in other words, changing our y values, and this c moved it left or right, changing our x values, right? And remember that insiders lie. So whatever it said it was going to do, it actually went the other way, okay? So now we're going to add 2. So now we've got AF of, whoops, forgot my B. Hold on, give me a second. So let's erase. We got AF of B, X minus C plus D. So we've done C and D. Now we're going to talk about A and F, A and B. So let's start off with A. A, as you'll notice, is on the outside. Since it's an outsider, it's going to impact my y's, okay? So A, f of x, it's got all the information right here, is going to stretch or compress your graph vertically, okay? So I want to start off by doing that one. Notice our graph. This is the same graph we've been using, and that is our table for the graph we've been using. So it starts off by telling us, notice, this is A, f of x, okay? It tells us to create a table for g of x, which is going to be our new transformed graph, taking 2 times f of x. What I want you to notice is f of x is the same thing as y, so that's like saying 2 times y. In other words, take all those y values and multiply them by 2. So that's going to give us what? Negative 8, 10, 4, 4, and negative 2. Okay? So we have basically taken all our y values and multiplied by 2. Remembering, once again, it's an outsider, so it's going to mess with your graph vertically. And since it's an outsider, remember, insiders lie, outsiders are the good guy, right? So the good guys do exactly what they say they're going to do. So now let's take a look at this graph. We're going to create a g of x that is 2 f of x. This existing graph that is already on here is f of x, okay? So now we're going to have to change it vertically. In other words, we're going to double all those values. So this point right in here is actually negative 4. Well, if I double negative 4, it's going to go to negative 8. This point right here is actually at 5. If I double it, it's going to go to 10. This point is at 2. If I double it, it'll go to 4. This point is at 2. If I double it, it'll go to 4. And then this open circle's at negative 1. It'll go to negative 2. And then it's just a matter of connecting all your points. Of course, if you got a ruler, that'll be handy. Kind of winging it here. What you'll notice is our graph did not change horizontally at all. You'll notice it's stretched vertically. Okay? The original minimum of our graph, remember, a minimum is how low does it go? This is the lowest value of our graph, which was negative 4. Our new minimum is going to be this point right here, which is going to be negative 8. Minimum and maximums are going to talk about how low does it go and how high does it go. Now, when you look at this g of x graph, right, this one right here, this purple one we just did, when you look at this, you'll notice my domain did not change. So my domain would be the exact same as the original graph. Just to be clear, let's make sure we remember domain. This would be negative 7 is less than or equal to x. And then this right here is going to go to 6, and it's not included. Now my range of my original graph, I'm going to write right up here in black. It went from negative 4, less than or equal to y, less than or equal to 5. Our range has now doubled. If I take that negative 4 and multiply it, I get negative 8 is less than or equal to y. And then my 5 less than or equal to 10. Notice all I did was multiply these two values by 2. And by doing that, you'll also notice, well, here's my negative 8, and here's my 10 up there, okay? So now let's look at the other idea of this, our f of b. So when I look at f of b, we're talking about it being on the inside, right? So now if it's on the inside, insiders lie. So according to this, it says to multiply my x's by 1/2. But in actuality, it's telling me insiders lie, so I'm actually going to multiply them by 2. So using all our previous x values, I got -7, -2, 0, 4, 6. If I multiply them by 2, I get -14, -4, 0, 8, and 12. Okay? Insiders lie, so keeping in mind since it's an insider, it's going to impact your x values as it did in our table, which means it's going to be a horizontal transformation. Okay? So looking down at our graph, now I'm going to go along that same line. These are going to double. So this point right here for an x value is -7. -14 is going to be off my grid. This point right here is -2. It's going to double and become -4. 0 is going to stay put. 4 is going to double and become 8. And 6 is going to double and become 12. Notice my graph did not move up or down. It did horizontally stretch. So then you have to think about, well, if it horizontally stretched when I had, this is equals f of 1/2 x. If it horizontally stretched for that, well, how could you make it compress? Hopefully you're thinking about, well, if I wanted to create a graph that would compress, I could say j of x could equal f of 2x. Because remember, insiders lie. In this case, we would cut all our x values in half, which would make it compress. The maximum of your original graph was 5. The maximum of your new graph is also 5. We did not change the y values. Therefore, you'll notice your y values did not change. In this case, our domain changed. So our original domain, I wrote over here, was -7 to 6. Well, now they doubled, giving you -14 to 12. Our range is the same. It did not change from the original graph. Just to practice a little function notation, this is asking what is g of -1. Keep in mind, this typically says g of x. So therefore, when that -1 is replaced, that means x equals -1. So what I want you to do is, I'm just going to do it in red here. -1, I'm going to try, I can't get the pen. -1, where x equals -1 is right along this line. So you're looking for that value where it crosses. And I believe if I had drawn a prettier line, it'd be right at about 7. So the y value, or g of x, g of -1 equals 7. In this case, once again, k of x equals 10. Remember, this is the same thing as y equals 10. So find the x value where y equals 10. Well, you might remember that, first of all, our maximum's a 5. So if I go up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I go up here, the graph never touches that. So the graph doesn't exist there. So the answer to this would be it does not exist. Let's work on reflections a little bit. My board's a little off. Okay, so we're going to start off with a vertical reflection. A vertical reflection is going to be where our a value is negative. The y values, remember, this is an a value. So for example, a f of x, and we got a negative out here, right? Well, that's an outsider, so that's going to impact your y values. And all that you're going to do is take all your y values and you're going to multiply them by -1. Well, let's go see what happens when we do that. If I take this 5 and multiply it by -1, it's going to become -5. If I take this -4 and multiply it by -1, it's going to become +4. 2 will become -2, 2 will become -2, and this -1 will become +1. So notice, what did my graph do? All it did, if I folded right along the x-axis, you would see that it reflected. It mirrored straight over the x-axis. So it's going to reflect across the x-axis. If you were to create the table, all we would do is take all those y values. You'll notice I got them over here to the side. These were all our original y values. All we have to do is multiply them by -1. Okay? And that would be the gist of the change for that. Then let's scoot over here to, now it's an insider. So this is going to be a different kind of reflection. If your B value is negative, well, let's see what's going to happen if my B value is negative. We're going to multiply all our, remember it's on an insider, so we're going to multiply all our X values by -1. So let's see if I scroll down to my graph. This is -7, which means it's going to come over here and be +7. This is 6, it's going to come over here and be -6. This is -2, so it's going to be +2. 0 is going to be still 0. And this 4 is going to become -4. So you'll notice if was I supposed to do that? Nope, wasn't supposed to do that. My bad. Hold on, gotta erase. You'll notice, sorry, my board's a little off, that this one reflected right across this y-axis. So if it's an insider and it's negative, then it's going to reflect across your y-axis. Once again, you'll take all those y values that we had and multiply them by -1, giving me 7, 2, 0, -4, and -6. And you can compare those tables to both those graphs to confirm that that makes sense. So let's look down here. Now, this is where you have to be careful when you get, multiple things are happening. It's really important that you do this in the right order. The easiest way to do it is start on the inside and work your way out. So let's just figure out what's going to happen. I got an insider of -1, which means my graph is going to reflect across the y. Okay? Then I have a 2, that's the next one. Since it's on the outside, it's going to impact my y values, so this is going to be my y values will double. Then the furthest out is going to be this -3, which means once again is going to impact my y values. They're going to now shift down 3. So let's make that happen. One thing at a time. I'll start off with the same point, this -7 down here. If it's going to flip across the x-axis, that means it's going to go over to +7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so it's right here. Now that point's not going to stay there though. Now my y values have to double. Well, that's a -4, so it's going to be a -8. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's right here now. Then I have to shift it down 3. So now I've got to count down 3 more. So 1, 2, and here's where the point's actually going to end up. So that was 3 changes I had to make before I was actually ready to graph that graph. So let's try another point. Let's try this point right here. If I do this, first thing is it's going to shift, it's going to reflect over the y-axis. Then it's going to double. It's currently 5, so it's going to be 10, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be up here, and now I have to what? Shift it down 3. So 1, 2. So this is where the point will actually land. So what you may like to do is do little points like I do, and then when you get to the end, do the old point and erase the others. So let's see, with 0 is actually going to be impacted too, but not in every way. It's not going to reflect over the y since it sits on the y. The y value will double though, so it's going to go to 4. And then it's going to shift down 3. So 1, 2, 3. So this is where the point will actually end up. Then let's see. Let's try another. We've got this 2 right here. This one's going to reflect over. So it's going to go 4 the other way. So I'm right here. Then it's going to double. So it's going to go up here. And then it's going to shift down 3. So this is where the point finally will end up. Okay, then we've got the open circle is going to reflect over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoops. My bad, that should be in red. Then it's going to double, which should go to here, and then it's going to subtract 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so when I'm looking at this, I know there's an issue. When we reflected over, we did fine. Then it doubled, so I'm right here. Whoops, not the eraser. So I'm right here. Then I'm supposed to go down 3. I went the wrong way. So 1, 2, so it's right here. Okay, so now I can erase all my extra little reds here. Okay, so if I started connecting some of these dots, well, this one is going to go all the way up to here. It's going to come to there, go across, and there we go. So that would tell you everything that was going on with that. If you did the table simply changed all the x values. So -7 became +7. -2 becomes 2, 0, 0. 4 becomes -4, and 6 becomes -6. My y values are going to double and then subtract 3. So my, -4 became -8 minus 3, so -11. Then I had, what was my next one? It was 5. 5 became 10 and subtracted 3, so it became 7. The 0 became, it was at 2, so 2 became 4 and then subtracted 3, so it's 1. And that'll go for both the 2's. And then the last one was -1. It doubled to -2 and then subtracted 3, so that's going to end up being -5. Okay? I hope this helps.